Okay, so good morning. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise, and we stream live on our Facebook page, The Alternative Uganda, and also our YouTube channel, The Alternative Uganda. Every morning from 8 to 10, we have our Mighty Drive show. Sometimes we have all our big guests in our mobile studio, that's the digital van, but also sometimes we have our guests in our physical studios, and sometimes those that are so busy, we find them in their spaces. Just like Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni, we have found him at his office at the NRM headquarters, Chadondo, plot 1. Honorable
Plot 10.
Plot 10, Chadondo Road. So, Honorable, say hello to our viewers, and then we shall proceed, sir.
Good morning, viewers. I'm very happy to appear on Digitalk, and thank you, Norman, for inviting me.
So humbled. You know, you're one of the most busiest people, I should say, and on record. Kindly want you to share with the public, in particular, what is it that your office does as the Director, Youth and Institutional Affairs, sir?
Our work really is to raise the level of civic competence of young people. Uganda is one of the youngest countries in the world. I think we are second to Niger, West Africa. So the productive age, the people who are in the thick of economic activity are very young people. Many of them are institutions of higher learning. So my directorate covers these young people who are in institutions of higher learning, who are in the markets, who are in the border industry, who are in using our Emyoga funds to do different crafts. Young people in general, especially those who are involved either in education or other economic activities. So those are the people who we are trying to conscientize, and they are the people we are trying to, because there is a big challenge of unemployment.
I'm glad you realize that it is.
A huge problem, challenge of unemployment, which we are trying to address, but we cannot address it if they are not conscious of their economic surroundings, and if they are not conscious of their history, and if they are not conscious of the importance of political stability and security. So we push our agendas, our mobilization agendas around national security and stability, around education, quality education, around employability, so that young people can be job creators rather than job seekers.
Okay, that's good to hear. Precisely to those of our generation who are lazy to read about you, I wish to communicate to them that a gentleman I'm seated with joined the Bush War at 17 from Bodo King's College. What inspired you to fight the establishment? Because the word fight isn't as easy. Like you choose to fight an establishment of a whole government, UPC back in the day. What inspired you?
Well, that was a very difficult part of our history as a country, because we were always very scared that the UNLA, which was the national army at that time, could kill your parents. They were a very violent lot, and they had very poor command, and they were very poorly trained and indisciplined. So I joined really out of fear.
But Honorable, you were in a prestigious school, well protected. I don't know which other word I can apply. And you say out of fear. I mean, it's that hard of. Were you convinced, or you were swayed by the wind, for lack of another word?
I was in a prestigious school, but of course I lived in Uganda. We used to walk in the streets of Kampala and would see dead bodies in the streets of Kampala. And the shops I had a brother-in-law who had a shop in Loom Street. They used to close at 3 p.m. and go home and lift all their stock from the shop, put it in cars, take it home in Bunga, then put it back in the cars and come and display it. And in our place where I come from in Toro, there was this character in the UNLA called Opeto. His nickname was Pelato. This guy used to kill people in Mohoti barracks by driving nails in their heads.
Wow.
So that is how difficult the country was. I remember an incident where I was with my late brother, Mayombo, and we were in Zambia area going towards Bunga to visit my sister. And the UNLA soldiers stopped us and took my shoes and my watch. So I had to walk on foot
To Bunga.
in socks to go to Bunga. And I asked myself, I said, what type of army is this? Which can't even
That's
guarantee.
like in your O level, or that's the
In
very
A level.
in A level now.
Just
again.
before I joined the army.
Okay.
In fact, that incident triggered my
So your anger
anger.
About
About
would
my
multiply,
watch
having
and
lost
my
your
shoes.
watch and your shoes, and you chose to pick the guns and now punish those that had taken your in a
Yes, I asked
collective,
myself, this army is supposed to protect us.
but it's now stealing you.
Yes, so when I met commanders on the Western Axis, who were by that time in Rwenzori, I asked them, how do I join?
You were now in the holiday,
Yes, we were in the holiday, the first time holidays.
and you mind sharing the commander, the name?
The name was Fred Rwijema.
I saw that coming because he must have inspired as many as he could.
Yes, many of us were recruited by Fred. So I asked Fred Rwijema, I said,
How do I join?
How do I join? He said, why are you joining us?
At merely
I said,
17.
I can't take my future with this gang of people
UNLA,
who cannot
okay.
guarantee our country's security. So he recruited me personally, gave me a note, and I went to the Rwenzoris, and that was 85. That's how we joined the army. And then we attacked in Barara, Masaka.
And you left your brother here. He hadn't joined because
Yes, my
as far as I
brother,
read
Let
the
Mayombo
history-
was trapped here.
Oh,
He was in
trapped.
his
You
first
joined,
year.
you joined him before. You joined before him.
Yes, I joined before him. He
Okay.
came and joined us later.
Okay. Our viewers, we are with Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni. And when you hear the name Okwiri, you might think he comes from the other extreme end, the northern Uganda. But surprisingly, of course, they hail from. I think your history is also from the northern Uganda because the Okwiri, literally, I mean, you share names from with the same.
Yeah,
people.
my clan.
Your clan.
My clan of the Babito came from northern Uganda. I think originally from southern Sudan, then northern Uganda, and they became the kings of Bunyoro
Bunyoro and greater than
and then
Toro.
Toro.
He's the director, youth and and institutions in the NRM. But then, because of time, we now have had some bit of a precise history over the why you joined NRA. You joined NRA with the 10-point program. As an educated young man back in the day, I am sure you were convinced of the 10-point program. How far do you think the NRM that you fought for to bring in power has achieved amongst the 10-point program? Talk about democracy, let's talk about peace and security, we talk about economic transformation. Of course, with the elections, we shall reach there a bit later. How would you judge yourselves? Now you on behalf of the rest of the colleagues you are with in the bush.
That's an interesting question because it includes context and definition. How do I understand democracy and how do you understand it?
Yeah, it is understood. I think every one of us understands democracy differently. Because some people will say there isn't democracy here.
Yes,
and I'm sure you have heard of that.
Because originally our thinking was that democracy, the main elements of democracy should be representation,
Yeah,
accountability. Are people able to remove their leaders when they are angry with them for not performing?
Now, you're triggering me when talk about when they are angry with them. Some people are angry with you, you people. But we shall reach there.
We shall reach there. So let me tell you,
Yeah.
national unity. National unity, we are done very well, but I'm afraid we have had some setbacks. When I look around, people have become more regional in thinking and more ethnic in thinking. It's because maybe some of us who lead political parties and other politicians who are in government have not prioritized bringing our people together. I can smell some.
Is it that your weakness as leaders?
Ethnicity. Indeed, it is, and we should pull up our socks. The politics of ethnicity, the politics of religion, and the politics of region. Northern Uganda, Eastern Uganda,
Add the
Western
politics
Uganda.
of eating. Maybe it is also lacking somewhere. The politics of eating.
Yeah, of course, sectarianism is always around eating. We, the Easterners, have not eaten. Then the people in the North say the Westerners
we're
have
eating
eaten too much.
leftovers. This is not too much.
But it's also lack of finding time for debating ideology.
Who? The
Is that-
citizens or you, the leaders?
Both
Or
of
both?
us, both the citizens and the leaders have to sit down and we start having candid conversations about the Uganda we want. Do we want a divided Uganda?
When did you realize that, Honorable? After 40 years in power?
No, we have always been running that line. You know, the NRM is a product of very many struggles. We learned from Mozambique, Frelimo.
Frelimo, yeah.
When NRM, before NRM became NRM, it was Fronas.
Fronas, actually.
Then we learned from the Tanzanians, who came here and removed Idi Amin. We learned a lot from the Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM. So our ideology and our philosophies are crafted and designed around the idea of unity that is encapsulated in a mass party. A party that brings in all religions, all ethnic groups, all nationalities, all shades of political opinion on a minimum program. That we should agree on national unity, the fight against sectarianism, the fight against corruption, modernizing the economy, building infrastructure, and moving Uganda into a digital age.
Okay, Honorable, you mentioned representation. Are you happy with the representation we have now? Quality and quantity.
No, I'm
over
not happy.
529.
I'm not happy because when I sit in the gallery, public gallery of Parliament, and listen to the levels of debate. By the way, I was a member of Parliament.
I'm coming there because I have to grill you over your performance as a youth MOP back in the day between 2001 and 2006, where we were representing Western Uganda as a youth MOP. But before we reach there, that quality and the quantity of the Parliament we have now, 529, with the budget that goes by, and the quality of course, the output. What is your comment?
In the 6th Parliament, we were fewer, and I think we had quality of debate. Now Parliament is so big that it's, sometimes I pity the Speaker.
But it's
whom do you allow to talk and whom do you
not to allow to talk?
So the Parliament is big. It has huge tasks to accomplish. Maybe we should have a national conversation on how to restructure Parliament. I don't know whether it will need a referendum or not, but I think at this rate, Parliament is too big to be functional.
Isn't that a controversy, Honorable?
And also because of commercialization of politics. People are talking about money, 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 money. You want to be an LC1, you want money. You want to be LC2 councillor, you want money. So the element of money and the element of lack of patriotism and the huge numbers make Parliament dysfunctional. Do
you discuss these matters in your circles? Because truth be told, you are one of, at least you are up there in terms of NRM leadership. Do you ever discuss these matters with the president and the entire leadership to say, look, much as wanted such representation, I think this is now too huge and it's becoming a burden rather than...
Of course we do. But you see, as Ugandans, we should change the way we do things, especially on important national issues. We should have a national conversation that includes the private sector, that includes civil society, that includes you, the media, that includes students, cooperatives, trade unions. Everybody should be included in the conversation of how do we govern ourselves? How do we create new structures of government? How do we create a constitutional order that allows functionality? A small government which is patriotic
but effective
and efficient.
Thank you. Your brother is praised for having moved the motion that renamed NRA to UPDF, Uganda People's Defense Forces, and it's on record. Do you consider UPDF a national force in your view? Like
I do.
If there is Honorable, look into your camera, it's there, and confess to the public on whether or not you consider UPDF as pure a national army or people's army.
I think the UPDF is the best institution that we have created since 1986, since 1981.
Yeah, in comparison, yes. If you compare
to all other institutions of government, the UPDF stands very tall. Let me tell you why. The UPDF has remained steadfast and very effective despite very little money or no money. Their salaries were almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, the UPDF has stabilized the region. The UPDF supported the struggle in Rwanda.
We are reaching there.
The UPDF supported the struggle in Southern Sudan, in Congo, in Burundi. Name it. The UPDF has had a stellar performance. Then the UPDF has produced cadres who have even helped the government. Now we have officers who are permanent secretaries, which had never happened. You know, the permanent secretary, Minister of Internal Affairs, General Musanyufu, is UPDF. Permanent secretary, Agriculture, UPDF.
People consider that as paying back to the Bushmen in courts, like people who helped the big man.
These are very efficient officers who are not only well trained militarily, but also Musanyufu is an economist by training. So we have them across the board. And some of them have even gone to head ministries, like the Minister of Works and Transport,
General
Katumba Wamala, an excellent general. So we have, UPDF has been in the public service with stellar performance. They have been in the army itself, intelligence services. We have even supported the police.
Yeah.
Many of our IGPs have been in police.
That's another capture. You have captured the police.
We have not,
you have captured the police rather than helping them, Honorable, because
the law allows us to give support.
The law you made to bring in your, because Honorable, as far as I know, when you captured the power in 1986, you literally halted the police service. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, if I'm not mistaken, either it was General Kaihura or someone who was taking charge of CPS as soon as you captured power, and you brought back police in 1988. So that means you did not have trust in the police. A reason for which up to now, people consider you to having captured the police by, of course, General Katumba Wamala and the rest later alone as IGPs. Do you think that's working with the police or capturing the police?
But you see, Norman, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't talk about the rule of law, and the government makes decisions that are supported by the majority in parliament, and everything is done legally, then you turn around and say it's not correct. It was a majority decision that, and these people passed through the appointments committee of parliament, by the way. Now, if you compare with other countries, especially Francophone countries in Africa, normally what they do is that they train the army and the police together.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, they remove those who are more educated and put them in the police. They call it gendarmerie. If you go in Francophone Africa. So the relationship between the police and the army should not be one of
But here it is different,
antagonism.
Here police goes to Kabadie and the training is different from the UPDF, where they grill people to become merciless, for lack of another word, and lethal.
No, we have had a shift. Now there is very close cooperation
between police and UPDF.
Between police and UPDF, and we're working very well. You saw recently in crime intelligence, General Damulira was promoted to Major General because he has been working very closely with the UPDF and he's in police and also with the civilians in the ghettos. And
we added the JAT with the Chibokos in Kawempe. That's also working together with the police.
I'm not going to say that security forces have not made mistakes. Sometimes we do indeed make mistakes, like all human beings. But we have a mechanism for introspection. We see it as forces and we say, reflect. Where have we gone wrong? And we call you journalists and we play football. You remember? Under General David Moses.
Yeah, sure.
We play football, we talk to you, we always...
Then the following day
we have this political thermometer.
The following day you beat us.
Which asks young people, please, what are we doing? But also, please also be civil to these young people. Some of them are still in the process of training. They have not interacted well with demonstrators. They are not trained well how to talk to journalists. Bear with them, don't provoke them. You provoke them, they make mistakes. And then we have to court-martial them and throw them in prison. And they are your brothers.
Yeah, sure.
So please help us.
With your UPDF and destabilizing the region, Honorable, most people consider you as warmongers. You have taken your warmongering characters to Somalia. You have taken your warmongering characters to South Sudan.
No money also.
No, people consider you as warmongers, not stabilizing okay. To those people who consider you as warmongers, what is your message to them? The
UPDF stands for Regional Integration in a Pan-African Agenda.
Why UPDF? When there is TDF, it's not seen anywhere. For lack of another word.
TPDF came here and helped us remove Idi Amin. That was Pan-African.
And stopped there. Like, women apparently. Why UPDF? It is UPDF
no,
in Somalia.
TPDF has been in the Congo.
TDF, the Tanzanian People's Defense Forces.
The Tanzanian People's Defense Forces is a Pan-African force.
Yeah.
The Uganda People's Defense Forces is a Pan-African force. We started, I remember, in those early days when we didn't have money. We helped build peace in Liberia.
Yeah.
Our contingent was led by General Ivan Koreta. So I can't mention all the missions.
You are triggering me to again put on
but
to you,
our
Honorable.
Pan-African credentials speak for themselves.
Wonderful. You are in Congo. You are saying, of course, which is factual, the rest of the armies have contributed towards Pan-Africanism and the rest. But all these armies, in their operations, they haven't been mentioned in regards to indiscipline. And of course, I know you know as a senior counsel in this country and the Pan-African, that UPDF did itself a service and did us a disservice as a country by, of course, taking timber. I know you know all of this matter and even the decision itself. Would you still consider that a Pan-African force and a disciplined force?
What did General Tafiri say? He said, stop Congo timbering me and timber Congoing me.
But he's on record for having taken the timber from Congo and the gold and the rest, and not him alone.
Which record?
No, I mean, there is a ruling, Honorable. There's a ruling. UN, we have a debt to pay to Congo as compensation.
If you go to Congo right now, the Congolese will tell you that the force which they trust most, even more than their own force armée democratique Congolais, is UPDF.
Despite still a few of them stealing from them.
What I remember, what the president warned against was army officers doing business with the Congolese. These UN people are confused people. You know their reports all the time are subjective, biased, politically motivated. But if you go to Congo, if you go to Congo right now and say, in these armies in the region, whom would you want to work with you? They will tell you the UPDF. By the way, in Ituri, our forces are fighting side by side. They are fighting ADF side by side. And our commanders work closely together. We have a very cordial relationship with the Congolese armed forces, the UPDF.
If you were to rate the UPDF...
I'm referring to you go and talk to General Kayanja Muhanga. He was the first
division commander?
The first commander to head Operation Shuja. Then Major General Diko Lum. And the rest, they have had a very cordial relationship with the Congolese army.
If you were to rate, because some of these questions I will address you, of course, as a former army officer, I will address you as a lawyer, I will address you as a former legislator. So you have a lot on your on your desk to answer to us. Out of 10, how would you rate a UPDF?
9. 90%. I am telling you, you move at night. Instead of meeting a civilian after midnight on a lonely road, you'd rather meet UPDF.
9
A UPDF patrol will hold you by the hand, whether you are drunk or not. They'll take you to your doorstep and say, hapa ni nyumbani kwako, ingia. They will not remove a shilling from you. That is the UPDF you have built. You should be proud of your army. All countries over the world. You go to the United States and talk about the United States Army. The ordinary person will kill you.
But there are people who are also have
our
issues with
army,
UPDF.
you can talk about other sectors. You can talk about other departments. You can talk about other, but the UPDF, they have made a name in Uganda.
We hope so. Our viewers will give their comments, and of course, I will address them.
Especially for us who saw the UNLA.
But that's where,
and I mean his forces.
Sometimes, Honorable, that's where we get things otherwise. That when we use UPDF and UNLA and the previous armies as a yardstick, it becomes tricky that 40 years later, we may not want to compare UPDF and the UNLA. Perhaps we compare UPDF maybe with other forces in the region or even outside the region, so that we do not, because when you take us so far away 40 years ago, there is definitely a very big,
is not far
there
away.
is a very big difference between now and 40 years.
That is the problem of young people. Is that if you go to China now and ask the Chinese, why are you so united? Why are you so hardworking? Why are you so disciplined? Why do you have these phenomenal figures of economic growth? Do you know what the Chinese will tell you? They'll start telling you that we were humiliated by the British. We were humiliated by the Japanese. We realized that China is a force, a sleeping giant. A sleeping giant. So whatever decision we make as the Chinese Communist Party, we remember that
our history. We
should never go back to that time. 40 years in terms of history is yesterday. And there is a real danger, a real and present danger that if we are not careful, Uganda can very easily slide back to the old days.
And all of us will be held accountable.
So we should be very careful, understand the reasons of why we misused the period between independence and 1986. What happened in there? So that we don't repeat those mistakes. African states are very fragile. It's very, very easy for the country to slide back into chaos. So for you young people, it's imperative upon you to read your history, understand the causes of instability, so that you can be able to build a strong state that can guarantee your future.
A reason why, when young people come to ask you questions, of course, some of them are beaten. Because I would ask, Honorable, when you were annoyed over the regime back in the day and their misbehavior, you picked up guns and fought to them. When young people get annoyed of you and throw themselves on the streets to demonstrate, you beat them. Who is more lethal? I mean, your reasoning back in the day and now, why haven't they been given room to show their discontent when it comes to either peaceful demonstrations and the rest?
In my opinion, that's not a strategic challenge. I think it's a tactical challenge. I think both the demonstrators and the police are behaving in a very stupid way. because the police is trying to say, you move in an organized way, don't disturb people who are selling their things. In Kiseka market, we know, please don't disturb these people. Pass here. Now the demonstrators are also very responsible.
But they will not fly.
In fact, the police has very little to blame. Their blame is less than the blame of the demonstrators. The demonstrators want to go in the populated areas so that they can create, so that they can create as much chaos as possible. And the cameras are rolling, and the international community looks at Uganda falling apart.
No, any other.
That one will never allow.
Any other mobilizer.
We don't want the world to see Uganda falling apart, because Uganda is not falling apart. So if we are demonstrating, let us demonstrate in an orderly way. Fortunately, now you can even demonstrate online.
You
can demonstrate on social media.
Demonstration online, for sure.
The opposition is very active, by the way, more active than the NRM on social media.
But the
in the NRM, we're just catching up.
Someone will still say,
now
after the election,
normally,
you had a room to go to court. But
very soon, the NRM is going to organize public dialogues on university campuses. Please come and cover. Come
on
and
your
cover.
Invitation, we
will invite you. We will discuss all these questions that Ugandans have, their pent-up anger over the road network, over the
corruption,
the education system, over corruption. We will have these public debates on university campuses, and we will call government officials to come and answer those questions.
Our viewers, we are still with the Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni on our Dig Talk TV and the Mighty Drive. Now, I want to ask you something. Do you consider Uganda peaceful and secure? And I'm asking you this question in particular, and to be specific, and perhaps share with you the other thought that you can be secure because of the ammunitions and the officers guarding you as an individual, but minus such force protecting you, you are insecure. Literally, you are unsafe. Because when we ask people like you and others, say, no, Uganda is safe, Uganda is okay. Perhaps it's because maybe they are guarded with the lead cars, what? Because minus them, my dear, working at night, some of us reach home you mentioned that you would go home at 3. Some of us reach home at around 6 for avoidance of the iron bars and the, that face people. And I'm sure
those are small security. No. Every country has those. In fact, most countries in the world have a higher crime rate than Uganda. Uganda has a very low crime rate. But now, for us, what used to bother us was state-inspired violence. Deliberately, the state is preying on its citizens. Now, that one we destroyed completely. You go to northern Uganda, you go to eastern Uganda, from border to border. There is no state-inspired violence. Now, crime is there, but now we are modernizing the police force. We increased the budgets of the police force, we have increased their equipment, they have vehicles, their salaries have been enhanced. I think the future is bright for Uganda Police Force and the other security forces, intelligence, because now our police operations are intelligence-led. So that's why we were able to pick. The other day, the people were wearing NRM t-shirts and they stole phones here. When the president was picking his nomination form. We grabbed all of them like grasshoppers.
But you see, but now that's the problem for some reason that maybe we should talk about later, about the unemployment. Because these young people, when we saw the footage, they said, you people, the NRM people, gave them 10 to 20,000 and given, you know, the desperation, and they came around to look for the greener pasture from people's pockets. Now you grabbed all of
No,
them.
it's just ideological disorientation. These people are, we have not taught them good manners. When they go to church, do they pay them money?
Definitely not.
Yes, NRM is their party. If they are coming to participate in party activities, let them come and participate. In fact, the chairman of the party, His Excellency the President, stopped us from selling cards of NRM, membership cards.
Yeah.
He said, you give them because this is a mass party, but ideally, members of NRM are supposed to give us money. They're supposed to buy cards.
Yeah.
They're supposed to subscribe, but they don't. So this NGOization of political parties, transport refund is NGOization of politics. It should stop. People should come, contribute to party activities, build democracy for themselves, for their own good.
Okay, let's talk about the independence of the principle of separation of powers. Previously, we mentioned, both of us agreed that our parliament is big. Previously, we also watched on record, and this is not blackmail, the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament saying, as far as she knows, she has two gods. God the President, and of course the other God. Doesn't that already show that the independence of Parliament is with another God?
No, I think she was using figurative language, and she could easily have been taken out of context. If I were her, I would not use that language. But what she meant is that there is a smooth relationship between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature.
Is it a relationship or a compromise?
It's a relationship.
Or even a capture.
By the way, for a developing country like Uganda, if we get mired into interstate friction, then you can't move. Take, for example, the judiciary. If an investor comes, they want land, they want this, then there is litigation. An investor is carrying hundreds of millions of dollars. Just because the judiciary wants its independence, they stole a process where people are going to benefit, young people are going to get jobs, Uganda is going to export products and services because the judiciary are very important people and they have stalled the process. But when there is mutual support, compartmentability, coordination, then it becomes easy. Things are expedited. An investor comes, easily processed by the investment authority. If there is any process in the judiciary, it is fast-tracked. Then it goes to Parliament, the enabling laws are enacted. We move. We are far, far behind. We want to catch up with other developed economies. So the smoother the relationship between the organs of government is, the better for everybody.
Okay, we hear you and the rest of the viewers there. Now, Honorable, I want to take you back to your history. You fought Obote, personally, and your colleagues. When they came here, you weren't satisfied enough. You went and fought Habyarimana. You weren't satisfied enough. You went and fought Mobutu Sese Seko Kuku Wazabanga. What is that is very unique about you and your colleagues, the likes of Samson Mande, Chakabar, and the rest? Why? I think it takes us back to calling you warmongers. Like you weren't that happy. We have rescued Uganda itself. Why take the same characters, fighting characters, to Rwanda, later to Congo? As in, why? Why wouldn't you have left them to manage their issues and then you come here?
We did not fight in a vacuum. There were challenges in this region. That's number one. Mobutu was an agent of Western imperialism. Habyarimana refused Banyarwanda to go back to their country.
But you were not one of them.
But when we were young, yes, I was not one of them. I'm a Ugandan. You were 100%.
A good Samaritan.
No, we believed in Pan-African. We were young and very ambitious. We believed in a Pan-African agenda. We thought that if this region had patriots and Pan-Africanists, they would work together so that the socio-economic transformation would be quicker. And the democratic processes would, as a bloc.
Not in isolation.
Yeah, but now you know, Kenya had problems with that regime which was there by that time. Congo was a mess under Mobutu. Here we had our own problems. So we said, if we had a person in Kigali who is of the same thinking as President Museveni, and then we have somebody in Kinshasa, would build enough capacity at that level of leadership to be able to transform Africa very quickly. That was our ambition, really, nothing else. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. We are with the Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni. He has a very rich history, and we're not going to exhaust it, by the way. Not even a quarter of his history. He's that unique. Okay, he used to be a very unique young man. You can imagine fighting 3 wars at a tender age, and he's still fighting now. But he now fights in suits. He no longer fights in combat. He no longer fights in combat. We are with him here, and with a rich history. And to those young people out there, he's a young brother to the late now Brigadier Noble Mayombo. That family, I think it's a very rare special of a family that had those 2 fighters. Now one down, may he so rest in peace, and one still standing, but still fighting for the entire Africa, but now in a civilian attire. Honorable, you come here, presumably liberated Uganda. Let me underline my words. You become a youth MOP, Western region, a very vibrant one. Do you think affirmative action to date, is it outdated or still relevant? Youth MPs, women representatives, and of course, not mentioning names, I know you know some of your colleagues that have represented women for over 30 or so years, and they are still standing. Then you have youth MPs. Do you think affirmative action is still relevant?
I think it still is, so long as the challenges are still there. The gender questions, because now the largest group are women.
Yeah.
Women members of parliament. If questions around gender challenges still remain, for example, widows owning land, when a man dies and his brothers want to grab the land from the widow who has the children, if all those challenges remain, then I think women representation in parliament in the context of affirmative action should remain. Then young people are many. In fact, even the seats should be increased.
Again,
on affirmative action.
You are fighting the quantity of parliament. Then you want to add more.
No,
would that be a suggestion again? We add more numbers.
But we are a young country. Let's have very many young people in parliament. Even though the numbers reduce, if we had 300, let 200 be young people. Because their country really. They'll be debating issues that apply to them. They are the ones who know how the education system is working. They are the ones who understand unemployment. They are the ones who have dreams for a new Uganda. And, they are digitally competent.
Do you give them space to air out their concerns, and do you listen to them, Honorable?
Yes, we do. We do. By the way, when you go to parliament now, the majority of members are between 25 and 45.
Average, yeah.
Yes, and in the local councils. If you go to areas where the NUP is in charge, the councillors are as young as 21, 22. We don't talk about local government, we normally talk about
the
parliament.
Mainstream, yeah.
But in the local government, leaders are very young. And also in other areas of civil society, like you in the media. Now look at you, all of you here. All of you are very, very young.
So
people.
In your view?
Very active. Uganda is a young country. We should broaden the horizons for you. We should broaden the civil service for you to join, and the civil society as well.
Do you realize in your alone time that there is a big space between you and perhaps also our generation? There's a very huge space in terms of not giving them guidance, in terms of being, I don't want to say, okay, young people, most of them literally have lost focus. When you look at the level of education and the products we get, like they are uneven, employable, do you ever reflect on such? And then if yes, what is your solution?
This is a very complex question. Please give me a couple of minutes to explain it. We have neglected some critical areas, like 4, of social development in Uganda. The first one being faith, because that's what we found when we were born, when we were children. We found families which believed in God and faith was strong. Then there is family. How do parents raise their children? Then there is community. There was a time when the neighbor would beat you for loitering.
Now even your parents can't beat you.
Now even your parents can't beat. Then of course there is government, the state. The strength of the state in making sure that when people break the law, when you go and build your house in a forest reserve, or you put your farm in a national park, or you build a structure without permit from authorities. Yeah. Something should happen. If you raid your border on the
only one
right-hand
way
side
pavement.
On a one-way pavement, there should be some punishment.
Isn't that your failure now as government?
So that's what I'm telling you, that these areas, faith, family, community, state, should be strengthened in order to have a responsible citizenry, a proactive citizenry, and a progressive citizen. If we don't have that, the citizen, how do you build the citizen? I have conversations with my children. You are saying there is we really debate and argue, very heated arguments. They think we are running, like what you're saying, they think we are running the country badly.
Yeah, sure. That's
and I tell them, for us, we moved it from this stage to that stage. Please,
give it to
study
them.
our. No, we're not going to leave it to you before you learn properly.
Give it to us so that we can run it ourselves, and then also refer to you. And
we are saying, no, build on what we have already done. Don't discard it, don't destroy it. Because we are putting a lot of energy and a lot of sacrifice. Build on what we have done and improve it. Now you have better tools, you have internet. You have faster transport systems. The world is interconnected. It will be easier for you than it was for us to have this economic revolution happen.
Okay. Now, Honorable, this is quite tricky, but I must ask it to you, because when you would put a poster there that we're having you, ask Honorable about this question. And I'm going to ask you, 2001, you were I don't want to use a basicist, but you were his diehard. 2001, under reform agenda. And I want to believe you had seen things weren't moving all right. What makes you U-turn that, oh, look, I think now things are moving literally better than I had thought, and then you went back to NRM?
No, I've grown older and wiser.
Are you saying by the time you joined the reform agenda, you weren't wiser?
I was a hothead. I was a hothead. Let me tell you what happened. When we were in Parliament, the 6th Parliament, we were censuring ministers for corruption. And we thought that the party was not, by that time it was the movement. Yeah. The movement was not moving fast enough.
By the vibrant you young people.
And we thought, by the way, that time the economy was very small. So I would tell Parliament that it was like eating seeds. The little money that we had. It's like you have seeds for planting.
Planting and multiply, you are already eating them.
So I was saying the ministers and other senior civil servants who were eating money. In fact, I had a very radical move. I used to say they should be shot. But of course, our leaders were saying, no, this is not how you do it. You have to have processes. You have to strengthen institutions. The IGG, the CID, you have to collect information and have due process. What in law we call due process. We had the disagreements, but because we were very angry and very young, we formed the reform agenda. Yeah. And as they say, the rest is history. They bundled me up, put me in.
Yeah, I remember you.
Deported me.
A war between you and your brother at the airport.
What was interesting is that Africans are normally deported from Europe to.
So you were deported from the airport to.
Me, I was deported from Uganda. But the good thing with our government, and really what I praise about President Museveni, he never let me stay there. He continued sending emissaries. He says, "Tell my boy to come back." So and here I am.
Convinced
not only working with him, I am now working with the party that he leads. So I am very glad that if it had been another leader, maybe they would have found me there and killed me. You know.
But perhaps because your brother was in things, for lack of another word, so there is no way how they could have killed you when your brother was already in the system. Anyhow, I think that, so what do you learn from that circumstance itself? That politics, you cannot have permanent enemies or permanent friends.
Yeah, we should have a politics of dialogue. We should not, there is a lot of toxicity in politics. If you are in NUPM and NRM, we don't talk. Why can't we have a cup of tea together? And I said, why can't you come to my home and my wife cooks for you and we talk? You are in NUP or I'm in NRM, and we say, how do we build? Our children should see us talking to each other.
Is there an environment
that's how countries are built? I'm telling you, in the UK,
I mean here,
when the war against Iraq started, and the British had joined the Americans, do you know the first people to be informed? The opposition. Tony Blair called the leader of the Conservative Party before you could even brief his own party.
Honorable, oh
He
no,
told the opposition.
that their politics is more civilized than here.
That's
you
what
can't
I am
be-
saying. We should civilize our politics, even though we disagree. These are public matters, they are not personal.
Have you, in your, you mentioned...
When these young people of Noop look at me, they are fuming. They want
Very
to.
angry.
Very, very angry people. You say, cool down. Uganda has been here for a very long time. You'll die and leave it here.
But some of your colleagues behave as if they are going with it.
Yes, I'm blaming both of us. Is that we should detox politics.
You mentioned dialogue. Once your friend is in jail, have you proposed anywhere to dialogue?
With the Kizabesi, absolutely, absolutely. But now there is a legal process going on. He's being accused of very, very serious crimes, treason. Now, my advice would be is that we first go slow, see how far the legal process goes. Then afterwards we can talk about reconciliation.
But not human. Okay, many, because I know there are young people.
Because you cannot grab somebody out of that legal system, legal process. You
To
grab
dialogue.
to dialogue, then people will lose trust in the in legal processes. Let it first move. We see the trend it takes. Then our president will know when to do what, and we trust him.
We hope so.
President Museveni is always for reconciliation.
We hope so. In our remaining minutes, let's talk about corruption and with your the mechanisms apparently in the fight against corruption. Do you think you have done enough?
No, I don't think we have
If
done
not,
enough.
how best would you have fought it?
I think we should strengthen the institutional framework and the institutions that are fighting corruption. More resources, human, financial, material to the IGG, more resources to the Director of Public Prosecutions, and all the other agencies. And also train Parliament to fight against corruption. Our Parliament was very vibrant. These days, they no longer censure ministers.
Who do we
they no longer-
blame? Your sixth Parliament was vibrant. Now this one isn't. Who do we blame?
Why do you use the word blame?
Okay, who do we ask why it is performing
You
this
say,
way?
what should we do? Because Ugandans are very good at blame game.
Yeah, we should first
Blame
of all
this
hold,
one,
we should
blame
ha- we
that
should
one.
hold you
It
accountable,
makes good
so we know.
politics and good news.
Okay, what do we do? What
It
do we
makes
do?
good politics and good news.
What
When
do we
people
do?
say, who's to be? What we do is, as citizens, we talk to our members of parliament. Because they are the ones who, what is the word for allocating money?
Appropriation, yeah.
They do the appropriation. Let's have more resources, and let's also train our people, leaders at all levels, about the ramifications of corruption. Corruption is a national security threat where it has reached in Uganda. It threatens the very essence of security. And you have seen countries have broken because of corruption. So it's a national security threat. The security services should study it keenly. Political parties should be interested. Parliament should be interested. Cabinet should debate it. You, the media, should put it as number one on your agenda. Because if it's not a national effort, we will not win.
So it's a collective effort for
It's
all
a
of us.
collective effort. Religious institutions, traditional institutions, everybody should talk about corruption until every Ugandan recognizes that it's a national security threat.
Okay. As we conclude, how prepared are you as NRM now in this forthcoming election? First of all, I want to address the issue of monetization of politics, because literally, as also, I want to use a precedent of those young people saying, Muzee, Yatwadem gave us 20,000, people gave us 20,000 to be, now they are arresting us. We're going to lose monetization of politics. And of course, by and large, NRM, vis-a-vis people who we think are now like it's bottleneck, like they are holding you by neck.
No, the elections, you are talking about the elections.
Yeah, general elections.
General elections of
not
next
in
year.
Yeah, not
We are going to win overwhelmingly. We are going to win because...
To win, to rig. Because people have
we are
also
going
said...
to, no, let me give you my reasons. You asked me a question, you want me to answer. One is that our opponents are very weak.
What
and
do you mean they
disorganized.
are weak, Honorable?
They are weak because they always wanted to amalgamate their interests and have a common agenda. They have failed to do it. In fact, they dislike each other more than they dislike us.
Are they weak, or you're
That
the
is
ones
number
weakening them?
That is number one. That's not our problem.
By blocking them to have rallies?
If they accept us to weaken them, assuming
But you stop,
that we are the ones.
If you stop them having rallies.
Listen, Norman. If they accept that, we weaken them. That means they are very, very weak and they are not up to the task. Then number two is that the NRM learns a lot. The NRM is very flexible and learns from its mistakes. So the NRM has realized that young people are very important. That's why they have brought in some of us who were in the early days of youth, and we are coming to add
more value to the
to add value to mobilization and policy making. Because if you look at the SIG elections that took place recently at village level,
special interest group,
we swept, we were above 90%.
but you were blocking the new
And
candidates
that, who blocked them? They did not come to vote. That's the truth. They should not tell you lies. We defeated them fair and square. There was no rigging, and that is a microcosm
of what is
coming. We are going to defeat them.
We will be here definitely to ask you on whether you will
We are going to defeat them thoroughly, and the electoral commission is there. The courts are there.
But do you think
They will give us the
do you
reason.
think young
As
people,
usual, they are going to say we have rigged.
that's what I wanted to ask.
But this
You think young
time,
people,
and
like-
we have a strategy. I'm not going to tell you. We have been meeting on a daily basis.
I hope it's not about rigging. I mean, that's a good
Why
news.
should we rig?
But you have been on record.
The problem with you is you stay here. I want you to drive in my car at my expense. I take you to Bunyoro and show you the road network in Bunyoro, the oil roads in Bunyoro, the trade on Lake Albert, the new Kabalega airport that we're building, the stadium we're building for AFCON. Hoima is shining. That is the real Uganda.
Honorable, do you think
If you're trapped here in Kampala, you know the Kampala.
with these
Kampala,
potholes,
Kampala,
but
Kampala.
if Kampala can't be exemplary with the potholes we have, where else would we blame you from? We begin from the center. If the sitting room,
You continue.
if the sitting room is stinky,
You-
now what do you do
You
with the bedroom?
continue. You are electing your Lukwago.
And I was, people, we are with the Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni, and I want to ask you this final question. Do you think people that support you, okay, that claim to be supporting you, support you genuinely, or it's because of benefits? It's a friendship with benefits.
The people who are serious, real supporters, because people want stability first of all. There is nothing as bad as being in your house at night with your family, and you think anytime people will barge in and steal and kill and rape, and this issue of Kwebakoturo, people take it as a joke. It's very serious. Our people in the villages and our people up country, they treasure the contribution of NRM towards building a country that is peaceful and stable. That's number one. Number two, we've built the enablers, the roads, the internet infrastructure, the access to communication, and access to banks and money movement, mobile money.
Transactions and
We used to have one university in Makerere. Now we have 54 universities and 282 other institutions of higher learning. So when we don't have the jobs yet, at least we have reached the level of training. We have a huge army of young people who are well trained. Now the question is, how do we build the factories and other concerns that will employ these young people? So the people know that under the NRM, the future is bright. We have made our mistakes, we know our mistakes, and we're working very hard to correct them. But for Uganda, as Minister Kaseja says,
money is coming.
the future is...
Our viewers, you have heard Honorable Okwiri Rabwoni. He's an amazing, I don't know, so many titles. An amazing Pan-African. I think that's broader than simply a Ugandan, because he has made his history. We only disagree on a few principles that he cannot encourage you to do what he did when he was simply 17 years. He won't advise you to do it. He will say support them and work with them, but he will not allow you to do what he did when he was 17. I want you to, in a minute, to air out your closing remarks until we meet again.
First of all, I would like to thank Digitalk for giving me this space to talk to you and to the young people of Uganda. Secondly, I would like to ask the people of Uganda to be peaceful during this campaign process prior to elections. That elections are not a matter of life and death. It's very, very important for us to vote. It's very, very important for us to choose leaders, but let us do it as a family, because after elections, we are going to live together in the same villages, we are going to work together in the same places of work. I would also implore people to turn out in large numbers and elect their leaders and participate in the political development of their country. And the media is central to that. And so far, so good. We thank you very much for your contributions.
And I also make this prayer on behalf of all of us this side to ask your colleagues not to beat us. So, so that when we are covering the vote rigging and any injustices, we are giving protection than batons.
I will take the message to the CDF personally.
As it was done in Kawempe. Viewers, let's catch you tomorrow, Wednesday, and we ask God to bless all of us for God and my country. Keep it digital. My name is Norman. I sign out.